Today's guest is Nancy Novak. Nancy is the Chief Innovation Officer at Compass Data Centers and has been in the industry for 30 years. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Carter Machinery. Carter Machinery is Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and Washington, D.C.'s Caterpillar heavy equipment dealer for sales, parts, and service. Welcome on into the Build Your Path podcast. My name is Matthew Pine, and here today with me is the president of MCCEI, Jennifer Sproul. Jennifer, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Yep. And our guest today is
Nancy Novak.
Nancy, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
So happy to be here. I'm a big fan of what you guys do, and so I'm super excited that you extended an invitation for me to be able to contribute.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, just giving our listeners just an introduction, who you are and what you do at Compass Data Centers.
You bet. Okay, so I am Nancy Novak, and I am the Chief Innovation Officer at Compass Data Centers. I come from a long, career in the built environment, working for a general contractor, both nationally and internationally. And now I'm in the digital infrastructure space. And at Compass, we like to stay on the cutting edge. So we look at all things that are innovative when it relates to means and methods, skilled workforce in the trades, and also just the ways in which the built environment can have an influence on this fourth industrial revolution that we're facing right now. So that's what I'm in charge of.
Great. And maybe if you just want to give us a little bit more of a background, how did you get to where you are now in your career? What pathway did you follow, whether that means in your schooling, early life, or just being self-made?
No, absolutely. That's always a really good question. So, I grew up in a family with 4 girls. I have 3 sisters, and my dad, I love to tell this story. My dad was a semi-pro football player, a Marine Corps sergeant, and a general superintendent for one of the largest contractors in the world. Wow. So we clearly grew up hunting, fishing, and being on job sites. Mm-hmm. So I attribute him for me entering the business, and just going to literally visiting job sites in the summer times, doing internships, making a little extra money on the side, and falling in love with the business and falling in love with the people in the business and the tradespeople and the all the walks of life. And I think the main thing that I really fell in love with was just this whole continuous learning environment that you're in. The fact that every time you build for a different client, you learn about their business. So it's not your standard 9 to 5 clock in, clock out kind of job. It's exciting, and you're always learning. And it's just like, when it comes to innovation and being, wanting to get up every morning to go do what you do, this is like the best industry to be in, I think.
It's funny because I think everyone that's in the industry says the same thing. Like, it just gets in your bones, and you have to love construction in order to keep coming back to this industry, because it's not a super easy one to be in.
A very good point. Yes, absolutely. You do have to love it.
And we know that you have a career that has spanned 2 male-dominated industries with construction and technology. How can both industries work to be more inclusive for women?
Yeah, so that's also a wonderful question, and it's interesting because construction is highly male-dominated, has been for since the beginning of time, and going into the digital infrastructure world and the technology world, they also have a lot of this male domination. Not nearly as bad as construction, but it's still there. It's very prominent. So when you think about the tech business and the clients that we work for, they're very disruptive, and they know how to make change that's meaningful and will last, and will also keep them relevant in the future. So now the exciting thing is, because we're trying to connect the world through digital infrastructure, these behemoth of these global firms are kind of new in our industry. And what's exciting about that is being disruptive and wanting to solve problems and needing a workforce to put work in place is all good. It provides this massive opportunity for these very disruptive firms to kind of take construction and pull them into the future, because we need to start doing more with less, right? We need to get more efficient. We need to get into these modern methods of construction that they desperately need. And I always like to tell people, we work for some of the largest firms on a global scale, and they have money, and money is not what's keeping them from being able to to really have the impact that they need. It's putting work in place. It's having the talent to put that work in place. So I feel like this is a huge opportunity for the tech world and the construction world to kind of merge and help each other out.
Well, and they're two essential industries. Without tech and without construction, the world wouldn't be what it is today.
Right. Absolutely.
So along those lines, encouraging people to join the construction industry, women specifically, falls a lot of times on educators. And schools, they have done a decent job of getting students interested in careers in IT. In Maryland, at least, IT has the highest enrollment in career and technology education programs statewide. But the construction courses are less than 5%. So what do you think the education system can do to show all students, but particularly young girls, a career path in construction?
Well, I mean, I think first, Jennifer, it kind of starts out with like trying to understand the different roles you can have with construction, right? So, I mean, there's so many people who are in finance, or they're in, marketing, or they're in, engineering and design, or they're in, just the vocational types of, aspects of the business and management and leadership. And so, and I remember years ago, I did some presentations for some of the teachers in a high school environment, and they were just surprised. They were just surprised at the diversity of ways in which you can contribute to the industry. So I think what educators can do is they can, when they look at the various career paths that people want to go into, number one, let's not put the stigma of the blue collar worker, in the construction realm, because that's just so off base, right? It's so off base. And then kind of like branch out and say, similar to many other career paths, there's a huge variety of different things you can do to be in this industry. All very important, and and also very much in the cross training of being able to do more than one thing. And
I think, I completely agree with you. That's part of why we've have the Build Your Path brand, is to help with that messaging, because like you said, educators don't know. Many of them are teaching construction because they were told to teach construction. They aren't from the industry, or they just have a very small knowledge of what the industry offers because of their small part in the industry. Maybe they have a home remodeling business or something like that. I'm not saying that it's an insignificant part, but not many people in the industry probably have an idea of the amount of diverse opportunities there are, even if you're in the industry itself.
I mean, isn't it fascinating to have to have an industry that's such a large part of the GDP be so mysterious, right?
Yeah.
And have this bit of a stigma that is, digging a ditch versus, a white collar job. It's so amazing to me. We have so much opportunity in our business. There's not a single, individual on the earth that, isn't touched in some way by construction, whether it's, the transportation that they use, or the hospitals they go to, or the stores they buy stuff in, or the house they live in, or whatever. So the industry is just vast. And to really have this, not so good image because a variety of things, because, it was basically the skilled labor force started out, with the whole tech bubble, and then trying to figure out, oh, this is the new way this is like a new path we can go down. And then the whole, if you don't go to college, you'll have to dig a ditch kind of thing. It's a little crazy when I think about it, but that's something we have to overcome. That's really something we have to overcome. It's such a fantastic business. And I hear what you're saying when you say, what can we do to help change that image? Education is a big, big, big part of that. Huge.
Absolutely. And honestly, the idea that you can go to college and have an amazing career in the construction industry too. And that's something we try to educate our parents on, as well as the teachers. Even if you do go the skilled trades route, you get college credit when you're in an apprenticeship program. So it is crazy that even people in the industry don't know that. Therefore, you think about also this diversity of the industry and the diversity of the jobs that have changed in the last 5 to 10 years, the jobs that have been added in the industry. How do you think the industry itself needs to change who they're recruiting? Additionally, I mean, we shouldn't just be recruiting skilled trades workers and civil engineers anymore. So who else do you think we should be recruiting to this industry?
Well, honestly, the on-the-job training when it comes to the technology, I think, is also a critical point to make, Jennifer. And I think that's what you're getting at, whether you're in an off-site manufacturing environment or whether you're on-site and you're using, analog or digital type technology. I was just talking to some individuals about bringing in like the millennials and the Gen Zs and all of the youth, right? And getting them attracted to our business. And when you think about a couple of things, number one, the fact that we have these really interesting new ways of doing things, right? That isn't just brute strength. It's not just, like swinging a hammer. It's literally, although swinging a hammer is very amazing and takes a lot of skill, and I, respect all of that. I mean, and there's all these other ways that you can contribute with different skill sets, which are very attractive. But on top of that, when you look at those types of generations, they are wanting to have a purpose. They are wanting to feel like they're a part of something bigger, that they're contributing to something. And I think that message is so critical, because this is what our business does. When you build a hospital, you're contributing to a society who needs healthcare. Or when you're building, a military facility, you're looking at national security type stuff, or, transportation. And it's just such a great industry to be, because it touches so many lives. When you look at the fact that construction represents 45+% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, what a great opportunity to kind of change the narrative on how we can affect global warming, right? Within our business. Does that give you purpose? Of course it does. And I think getting those kinds of messages out are going to make a huge difference in how we recruit different age groups, different ethnicities, different, genders, all of the things that we need to be the most innovative, to get all of those lenses and those skills.
I mean, I could not agree more. We say that all the time. Everyone has a different reason for going to work, and just telling somebody they're going to make more money. You can't just keep throwing money at people and expect that to be the way you keep them, especially once you get them in. The benefits and the money is great, but you have to make sure that they love where they're working, and give them reasons with your culture, with your give back, all that. But again, recruiting, we are working on a series. We're dubbed it the Making a Difference series for the same reasons, showing the why behind what we're doing and the major impact. We're literally building the world, and how do we show that to the future of our industry?
It's very exciting. It's very exciting to be a part of this. I mean, being a part of the construction industry, and then also, like I said, being part of the tech world, kind of getting plugged into that and how they impact each other. And then, of course, I have the exciting resume of building launch pads. And now you look at the connection there, where you've got satellites that are going to be bouncing signals to provide, data links, and, GPS for transactions. And, it's so cool. What other industry gets you, your ability to touch all of those areas and learn about those areas, and then also influence, each one of those areas as well.
Absolutely.
And you just mentioned a little bit about this, but being such a passionate advocate for both technology and innovation in the construction industry, what are some actual trends that you're most excited about, and how do you see them affecting the diversity of our workforce?
I mean, so from a technology standpoint, I see a lot of the trends are about doing more with less. It's about tool time, right? So when you look at tool time, and that tool time is how productive we are from a trade standpoint, it's only about 60%, which isn't really good. So the trends for innovation and technology are to improve that. And you should start thinking about that. Put yourself in that tradesperson's shoes. How do they become more effective, more productive? That's through offsite manufacturing, prefabrication, advanced work packaging, and then also utilizing the tools that don't require the brute strength that we typically think about, and also, in a safer and more controlled environment, whether it's on-site or off-site, being able to assemble things, at waist level instead of on the ground or up in a lift, being able to use, analog, robotics, so that you can carry heavy tools and not have wear and tear on your muscles. That not only opens up the business to more people, but it also saves, the people who are the folks who are strong enough, but will have the wear and tear over time, right? So I'm really excited about those kinds of technologies. I also am excited about things like digital twin, and being able to look at things more holistically, and literally being able to save the data from the life cycle of the project from start to finish, so that you can learn from it and continuously improve with it, right? Because the data is so powerful, and having to start over all the time is wasteful. So those are the kinds of technologies that I think will change our industry.
Yeah, it is wild. You think about the construction industry. We're like the only industry out there where you don't build the same thing twice. And so I agree.
Even the prototype stuff is not the same thing, because when you site adapt it, it's different. It changes, right?
Absolutely.
So, yes.
Yep. That's pretty cool. So that's great that there's ways to take that manufacturing mindset and continuously improve everything. Last week we were with a construction camp for girls, Camp Newick here in Baltimore, and we took them to a prefab site for an electrical contractor, and they were all working at counter height, building a duct bank. And imagine doing this outside on a day like today in a trench that's 6 feet in the ground, or longer, or deeper. So they all just kind of looked at me. I said, "This is why this is the future of this industry." And I absolutely opens it up to people that aren't physically able to do those types of things, if they're potentially handicapped and in a wheelchair.
So much safer.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, I always want to point out, you have a rising tide lifts all boats. So even if you're physically capable of doing the work, why would you in an environment like that? Everybody wants the same thing. They want to be more efficient. They want to have good work hours. They want to be able to do things safely.
So along with that, the technology and the innovation, it's playing into, how do you say it playing into attracting and retaining younger people into our industry? And then conversely, how can the industry embrace that? What can we do to embrace the innovation and technology and use it to recruit?
Well, I do think it kind of starts a lot with the digital information. So when you look at the technologies we have, whether it's flying a drone or using robotics to assemble something in a factory, it's always about the metadata, right? It's about the data. And there's so many cool technologies right now that are really attempting to kind of master this and break down these silos. So again, if you're in the classroom environment, whether it's a vocational classroom, whether it's an academic classroom, whether it's, on a site, being able to have the ability to talk about what's available today and where that's headed and the why behind that, I think is going to be really important. The hard part, Jennifer, that you're asking me for the answer is how do we scale it? How do we get it to where it's more of a spontaneous awareness thing and not a mystery? How do you have this rallying point where it's we have a really cool thing to offer here. We want you to join us. And I think a lot of that it's the ripple in the pond. It's sending the message and then sharing the message and talking about the message and asking more questions. And then being able to add different perspectives to it. I think from an education standpoint, I truly believe that it's incumbent upon us to go to the schools to share the information that's out there on all of our social media platforms. I speak about this a lot, right? I speak about the skilled trades. I speak about the shortage of labor. I speak about diversity. And I always encourage people, don't rely on me to get the word out. Don't,
do it yourself.
Please share. Even if you don't want to, do an editorial on anything, just keep moving it out. If only 30 people look at it, it's 30 more people than looked at my post, right? And if one person sees that and it makes a difference in their lives, then they're going to share as well. So, I know that sounds kind of grassrootsy, but, honestly, it's what we got. It's what we have right now. And I think it's important for us to always say that when we are sharing information, please feel free to share with your own group.
Yeah, so we have created a guest speaking program where we're trying to pair industry professionals with educators that need people in their classrooms to talk about their careers. Kids love a guest speaker, teachers love a guest speaker because it gives them a little bit of downtime, but also it just reinforces the message that they've been sharing all year long, but from a different voice. So Matt, I'm hoping we can put in the link for anybody listening to sign up to be a guest speaker in the state of Maryland, because we're desperately need that. And I know we have seen the results, just doing a quick lunch and learn with a bunch of girls and telling them about opportunities in HVAC and plumbing, and they, a whole bunch of them signed up. So I know it's there. It's things like volunteering at, your local camp, Camp Newick, and
there's organizations like in Maryland in particular, the World Trade Center Institute is a great organization, right? And and they have a platform, and they have fellowships and certain ways to be able to get the message out. But again, it's literally about just trying to figure out, I think it's a little funny, because like I get asked to talk about technical things all the time, talk about modern methods of construction, talk about sustainability, talk about and in every instance, I take the opportunity to bring the diversity aspect into it and to kind of explain the benefit. And what's so interesting is the audience are usually very much like, well, no, that has not been the lens I've looked through before. People don't normally tie that together. But when it happens, there's a light bulb moment.
So what is your outlook on the future of the construction workforce? And are there any ways that we haven't already discussed that the industry can address the labor need?
So yeah, there are some ways we haven't discussed yet. So I'm a glass half full type person. I feel like the clients that are now having to put work in place on a global scale are going to help us change the industry. Some of the ways that we haven't discussed that I think would be really practical and easy ways to help are doing things that are intentional. So like I want every job site to have PPE that's designed for women. Just do it. It's a small investment. It makes them feel welcome. Make sure their facilities are, there for women as well. Just make sure that that's a vocal thing that you're doing. It's a very small investment. Also, just really being intentional about when you do the hiring and promotion, not just hiring. Intentionally go and look for diverse talent, and then use positive reinforcement to increase that, right? Like it's the whole, like, if you bring your friend, if you know somebody who's got the not so much the history or the skill set, but really just the aptitude and the things that we're looking for that we can train on the job, bring them forward. Compass has been super successful in being very intentional about women. So nationally, coast to coast, all of our CMs are women, all of them, 100%.
That's great.
And I know that sounds a little like, I guess reverse discrimination, but honestly, no one bats an eye when they're all men. So we just decided to go intentionally and do this. Now in other countries, we have a mixed, it's a blend, which is perfectly fine. But we wanted to be very intentional about it. And we look for, the attributes over the skill set in the past, the history of experience. And it has been a smashing success to bring them in and have, the boots on the ground training. And then what happens, again, it's the ripple in the pond. The GCs see it, the architects see it, the engineers see it, the owners see it. And then they go, oh, this can work if I'm intentional about it. And then of course we look at positive reinforcement. Hey, if the skilled trades are only about 3% or less of women, you know what? Maybe there's some upside for you to get it to 5%, and there's so many ways you can reward those kinds of behaviors, just to put that out there, right? I think that's the way to really kind of move the needle, is to just say this matters to us. We're leading by example, and then here's some really practical ways of using positive reinforcement to make a difference.
I love that. I so often hear hiring managers say, well, we just hire the best person for the job. And to me, often the best person for the job is somebody that looks like you or looks like the other people that have the job already. So being intentional. I was recently speaking to a local union that was like, how do we get more women? I said, well, first of all, bring women to your recruiting events. You have women. Putting all men at the recruiting table and you're in a high school, what are the chances some young girl is going to stop and talk to you? Probably not.
It's been proven if you have, you'll attract the likeness for sure.
Exactly.
I do think it's funny, Jennifer, when you say the whole, like, well, we just want the best person, so we can't really have quotas or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, because because like all of the boards who are, full of white men are just all the best, right?
Oh yeah,
and it's the irony of like, yeah. And it's a little silly when you think about it, but and I always laugh when I hear that, because it's like, of course you want the best person, and normally the woman's going to be the one who, has checked the boxes 3 times over before they took the position in the first place. So, yes. Just go figure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know you talked a few years ago at an event I was at, and it was about just that, women.
Potential versus credential.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Well, before we let you go, Nancy, we wanted to give you a chance to plug your own podcast and where people can find it.
Yes. So I do host a podcast called Breaking Glass, and it comes out quarterly. And we always have really, wonderful guests who give us perspectives on, women in leadership, typically in the built environment or the digital environment. But I just did one, by the way, for MSU with the Society of Women Engineers, and it's going to be really good. I was so impressed with these young women. So so it'll come out quarterly. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and you will always see the post for the Breaking Glass podcast, or you can go to our website, compassdatacenters.com, and you can find the links there.
Thanks, Nancy. I always enjoy our conversations. Appreciate you coming on.
Yep, my pleasure.
If you want to learn more about Build Your Path podcast or the built environment overall, go ahead and visit buildyourpath.org. Another big thank you to our guest, Nancy Novak from Compass Data Centers. Build Your Path podcasts are produced by the Maryland Center for Construction, Education, and Innovation. I'm Matt Pine. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.